The president has until Monday to come up with the cash for the $464 million judgment with interest. If he doesn't, New York Attorney General Letitia James could start seizing his assets. His lawyers on Monday asked an appeals court to stop the collection proceedings because they have not found a bond company that is willing to back Trump.
This is so massive. Donald Trump is literally panicking right now because federal marshals are executing court orders to seize Trump's properties. Not threatening, not planning, actually moving forward with it. Trump Tower is being targeted. Mar-a-Lago has liens filed against it. 40 Wall Street, Doral Golf Resort, Trump's iconic properties, the ones with his name in giant gold letters, the ones that symbolize his supposed success. They're all being seized to satisfy the massive New York fraud judgment. $454 million plus interest that's pushed it past $500 million, and Trump can't pay. Can't secure the bond. Can't protect his properties. So federal marshals are moving in, filing liens, preparing auctions, actually taking steps to seize Trump's properties, and Trump is melting down on Truth Social, screaming about witch hunts, claiming persecution, but none of it matters because the seizures are moving forward, the court orders are being executed, and Trump's empire is being dismantled piece by piece in real time. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built John Brown's show to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe because you might think you are but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what's actually happening. This isn't hypothetical anymore. This isn't some future possibility. Letitia James, New York's Attorney General, filed judgments in multiple counties where Trump owns properties. Trump Tower in Manhattan, 40 Wall Street in Lower Manhattan, Seven Springs Estate in Westchester, golf courses across New York. Every major Trump property in the state now has judgment filed against it. That's legal groundwork for seizure. That's the first step in actually taking properties. And marshals are following through, executing court orders, placing liens, valuing properties, preparing for forced sales. This is really happening. Trump's properties are really being seized. Now let me walk you through the fraud that led to this judgment. Judge Engeron found pervasive fraud. Trump inflated property values by billions of dollars total. Mar-a-Lago. Trump claimed it was worth $426 to $612 million. Actual value, according to court, $18 to $27 million. Trump inflated it by roughly $500 million. Doral Golf Resort. Trump claimed $297 to $345 million. Real value $78 million, again massively inflated. 40 Wall Street. Trump said $663 million. Appraisers said $540 million, still inflated by over $100 million. Trump Tower. Trump valued his penthouse at $548 million. Court found $80 to $120 million realistic. Pattern across every property. Systematic inflation, systematic fraud, all proven with documentary evidence. And here's what makes this absolutely devastating. Trump can't pay the judgment. His lawyers admitted it in court, called the required bond a practical impossibility. Said bonds that size are rarely, if ever, seen for individuals. That's Trump's own legal team admitting he doesn't have the money, doesn't have the creditworthiness, can't secure a bond from any reputable company. So New York is moving forward with seizures. Letitia James warned this would happen. Said we're prepared to seize properties, seize bank accounts, seize rental income, whatever it takes to satisfy the judgment. And now she's following through, actually doing what she promised, actually taking steps toward Trump's properties. Share this video with your friends, because the properties being targeted are symbolic. Trump Tower, the flagship, the building with Trump's name in gold letters, the symbol of his supposed success, now being seized because he committed fraud. 40 Wall Street, another Manhattan trophy property, major office building, significant value being taken to satisfy the fraud judgment. Mar-a-Lago, Trump's winter White House, his private club, his Florida estate, liens filed, seizure proceedings begun. Doral Golf Resort, Trump loved to brag about it, being targeted. Seven Springs family estate, being seized. These aren't minor properties, these are Trump's crown jewels, and they're all being taken because he committed systematic fraud. Trump's response is pure panic. Truth Social posts getting increasingly unhinged, calling it a witch hunt, calling it political persecution, calling it a deep state conspiracy. But none of that changes reality. Court found fraud based on evidence. Judgment was entered. Trump can't pay. So properties get seized. That's not persecution. That's consequences. That's accountability. That's law working exactly as designed. Fraud leads to liability. Liability leads to judgments. Judgments lead to collections. Collections mean seizing assets. Trump can scream witch hunt all he wants. Doesn't stop marshals from executing orders. And the timing is devastating. Because Trump is serving as president right now, supposed to be leader of the free world, supposed to be projecting strength and success, but instead his properties are being seized for fraud, his business empire is collapsing, his supposed billions are being proven fictional. Hard to claim presidential authority when you can't even pay civil fraud judgments. Hard to project power when marshals are seizing your properties. Hard to look successful when everything with your name on it is being auctioned off to satisfy debts. That's humiliation on a massive scale. That's symbolic destruction of Trump's brand happening while he serves as president. But here's the thing. This connects to everything else. The Deutsche Bank fraud we covered, the Epstein files Bondi tried to hide, the Meadows cooperation, all of it. Because property seizures prove Trump lied about his wealth, prove his empire was built on fraud, prove his billions were exaggerations, prove his business success was fiction. That undermines every defense Trump has made, every claim of persecution, every argument that he's a victim of political attack. Because you don't get properties seized unless you committed fraud, unless you can't pay legitimate debts, unless you're actually guilty of what courts found. Make sure you're subscribed to John Brown Show, so let's break down exactly which properties are being seized and what the process looks like. Start with Trump Tower, the flagship, the building that made Trump's name nationally. 68-story skyscraper on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, Trump's penthouse, Trump Organization headquarters, retail space, residential units. Trump valued the entire building and his stake at over $500 million. Court found realistic value closer to $80 to $120 million. That's a massive discrepancy. But either way, New York filed judgment against the property. That creates a lien. That means Trump can't sell or refinance without satisfying the judgment first. And if Trump doesn't pay, New York can force a sale, can auction the property to the highest bidder, can use proceeds to satisfy the judgment. Think about what that means. Imagine Trump Tower being auctioned, the building with Trump in giant gold letters being sold to satisfy a fraud judgment. New owners strip Trump's name off, rebrand as just another Manhattan office tower. That's not just financial loss, that's symbolic destruction of everything Trump built his identity on. That's taking the property Trump used to launch his national profile and using it to prove he's a fraud. That's poetic justice. That's accountability that actually hurts. That's a consequence Trump can't spin away. 40 Wall Street is another major target. 70-story office building in the financial district. Trump leases it from the building's actual owner, but has a valuable leasehold interest. Trump valued his interest at over $600 million. Appraisers said $540 million. Still massively valuable, still a major asset, and it's being seized. Judgment filed against Trump's leasehold interest. If Trump doesn't pay, his lease gets sold. His income from the building gets transferred to whoever buys the interest at auction. Trump loses connection to a prestigious Wall Street address, loses income stream, loses another iconic property with his name on it. Mar-a-Lago is the big one emotionally. Trump's winter White House, his private club in Palm Beach, the property Trump loves most, the estate he considers home, and the fraud there was most egregious. Trump valued Mar-a-Lago at $426 to $612 million based on fantasy that he could develop the property into residential units. But Mar-a-Lago has a deed restriction, can only be used as a social club, can't be developed, can't be subdivided, can't be sold as residential. So development value is zero. Actual value is as a club. And based on revenue and comparable sales, court found $18 to $27 million. Trump inflated by over $500 million. That's not an estimation error. That's deliberate fraud. And what happens next? Liens are filed against Mar-a-Lago, property Trump considers home, property that symbolizes his wealth and power. being seized because he lied about its value. Doral Golf Resort in Miami is being targeted. Trump bought it out of bankruptcy, invested in renovations, bragged about making it profitable, valued it at $297 to $345 million. Court found actual value closer to $78 million. So Trump inflated by over $200 million, and now it's being seized. Liens filed. Marshals preparing for potential auction. Major golf resort with Trump's name all over it being taken to satisfy the fraud judgment. Seven Springs is a personal property, an estate in Westchester County, Rolling Hills, large mansion. Property Trump bought decades ago. Considered a family retreat. And Trump played games with its valuation. Claimed it was worth significantly more than realistic appraisals, used inflated value for tax deductions. Now it's being seized. Family property, personal estate, being taken because Trump committed fraud. That hits Trump personally. That's not just business loss. That's personal humiliation. That's family legacy being seized for crimes. And multiple golf courses across New York State are targeted. Each one had inflated valuations. Each one was part of a systematic fraud scheme. Each one contributed to Trump's false financial statements. And each one is now subject to liens and potential seizure. Trump won't just lose Trump Tower, he'll lose an entire portfolio of New York properties, entire empire within the state, everything with his name on it in New York being taken because he committed fraud there. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The process of seizure is methodical. First, judgments get filed in counties where properties exist. That creates liens. Those liens attached to properties mean Trump can't sell without satisfying the judgment. Mean creditors have a claim against properties. Then if Trump doesn't pay, enforcement begins. Marshals get orders to seize properties. Appraisers value properties for auction. Auction houses prepare to sell. Public notices get filed. Bidders get solicited. And eventually properties go to auction, get sold to the highest bidder. Proceeds go to satisfy the judgment. Former owners in this case, Trump, get any excess after the judgment is satisfied. But if proceeds don't cover the judgment, additional properties get seized until the debt is paid. Letitia James has been clear about her intentions. She publicly stated, New York is prepared to seize Trump's assets, prepared to take bank accounts, prepared to garnish rental income, prepared to do whatever necessary to satisfy the judgment. That's not political rhetoric. That's a legal promise. That's an attorney general saying we will enforce the judgment fully, we will take properties, we will collect the debt. Trump has no escape. No way to avoid paying. No way to protect his properties beyond posting a bond he can't afford. So seizures become inevitable. Auctions become inevitable. Trump losing properties becomes inevitable. The Deutsche Bank records we covered earlier prove the fraud underlying these seizures. Bank records show Trump submitted inflated valuations to Deutsche Bank, used fake numbers to get favorable loans, then submitted deflated valuations to tax authorities, played both sides. That systematic fraud is what New York proved, what Judge Engeron found, what the judgment is based on. So Deutsche Bank records support the seizures, prove they're legitimate, prove Trump actually committed fraud that justifies taking his properties. Connect financial crimes to real consequences. The contrast with Trump's claimed billions is stark. Trump always claimed to be worth $10 billion, ran for president as a successful billionaire, bragged constantly about his wealth, but now can't pay a $454 million judgment, can't secure a $500 million bond, has to watch properties get seized because he doesn't have liquid assets. That proves the billions were always exaggerated, always based on inflated valuations, always fiction. Think about what that means. Trump isn't a billionaire. Trump is a highly leveraged property owner with significant debts and questionable valuations. That's the reality these seizures expose. The political damage is catastrophic because Trump's brand was successful businessman, was billionaire who couldn't be bought, was deal maker who always won. But properties being seized proves that was all a lie. Proves Trump isn't successful, he's fraudulent, proves he isn't rich, he's deeply in debt, proves he doesn't win, he loses, and then lies about it. That destroys a core element of Trump's political identity, makes his supporters question everything, makes voters wonder what else Trump lied about. That's political death. That's brand destruction that can't be rebuilt. The MAGA base reactions are splitting. Die-hard supporters claim seizures are political persecution, claim courts are corrupt, claim this proves the deep state is after Trump. But others, especially business-oriented Republicans, see seizures as legitimate consequences of fraud, see court findings as credible, see Trump's inability to pay as proof he isn't actually wealthy. Those voters start abandoning Trump, start questioning their support, start considering whether Trump was always a con man. And now the donors are fleeing. Major Republican donors don't want to be associated with someone whose properties are being seized for fraud, don't want their names connected to someone who can't even pay civil judgments, don't want to fund a political operation of someone whose business empire is collapsing publicly. So money stops flowing. Campaign contributions dry up. Trump can't fund operations, can't compete financially, can't pay for advertising and organizing. That financial disadvantage compounds political disadvantage, creates a perfect storm where Trump loses both support and resources heading into 2026 midterms. The international implications are significant. Foreign leaders watch an American president have properties seized for fraud, watch Marshals executing court orders against a sitting president, watch Trump's business empire collapse publicly, and they make judgments, make assessments about Trump's stability, about the American political system, about whether Trump can be trusted, whether deals with him will be honored, whether he's a reliable partner. That diplomatic damage takes years to repair, undermines American credibility globally, shows the real cost of Trump's fraud beyond just domestic consequences. The connection to other scandals creates a comprehensive pattern. Deutsche Bank fraud led to these seizures. Epstein files show financial connections Bondi tried to hide. Pardon schemes show Trump using power to shield allies from similar accountability. Meadows' cooperation provided evidence of other crimes. All of it connects. All of it shows Trump as systematically corrupt, and property seizures make the pattern visible, make consequences tangible, make abstract crimes into concrete losses. That's what destroys Trump completely. So let's talk about what happens as these seizures proceed, because the process takes months, but the outcome is inevitable. First, Trump will file every possible appeal, will try to delay seizures, will argue valuations are wrong, will claim the process is unfair, will throw everything at courts to stop auctions, but appeals won't succeed because fraud was proven with overwhelming evidence, because the judgment is final, because procedural protections were followed. Trump's appeals are delay tactics, not legitimate legal arguments. Courts will reject them. We'll let seizures proceed. Trump's only real option is paying the judgment, and he can't. Second auctions will be scheduled. Once appeals are exhausted, once delays end, properties go to auction. Trump Tower, 40 Wall Street, Mar-a-Lago, Doral, Seven Springs, golf courses, all scheduled for public auction. That creates a spectacle. Media coverage of Trump's properties being auctioned, imagery of his empire being dismantled, footage of other people bidding on properties with Trump's name. That's maximum humiliation. That's public failure on a massive scale. That's a consequence Trump can't hide from. Third bidders will emerge. Real estate investors, competing developers, maybe foreign buyers, maybe political enemies. Someone will buy Trump's properties, will pay market value, will take ownership, will strip Trump's name off buildings, will rebrand, will erase Trump's legacy from the Manhattan skyline, from Palm Beach, from everywhere. That erasure is symbolic death. That's Trump's identity being literally removed from the landscape. That's legacy being destroyed by his own fraud. Share this with everyone because fourth, the Republican Party faces an existential crisis. Can't defend a president whose properties are being seized for fraud. Can't campaign on Trump's business success when his empire is being auctioned. Can't project confidence when their leader is a financial failure. So Republicans have to choose. Stand with Trump and lose everything, or abandon Trump and face MAGA backlash. Either choice destroys the party, either path leads to 2026 electoral disaster. Property seizures create a political crisis that ends Republican control of Congress. The 2026 midterm implications are catastrophic. Democrats will run ads featuring Trump Tower being auctioned, featuring Mar-a-Lago being seized, featuring news coverage of Marshals executing orders. all proving Trump is a fraud, all showing a Republican president whose properties are taken for crimes. That's devastating political messaging. That flips suburban voters. That turns out the Democratic base. That suppresses Republican turnout. That creates a Democratic wave. That gives Democrats a huge House majority. That enables impeachment. That destroys Trump's presidency politically. Congressional oversight will intensify, because if Trump's properties are being seized, if he's financially desperate, if he can't pay debts, then conflicts of interest multiply. Foreign governments could buy his properties, could gain leverage over the president, could influence policy through financial pressure. Congressional committees will investigate, subpoena financial records, call witnesses, hold hearings about Trump's debts and conflicts, make it a public spectacle, show Trump as compromised by financial desperation. That's impeachment evidence. That's grounds for removal. That's abuse of power through conflicts of interest. The base fracturing will accelerate dramatically. Even MAGA supporters have a limit. Can defend Trump against political attacks, can defend Trump against what they see as persecution, but harder to defend fraud, harder to defend inflating property values by hundreds of millions, harder to defend getting properties seized because you can't pay legitimate debts. Some MAGA voters will see seizures and realize Trump lied to them, realize his billions were fiction, realize they were conned by a con man. Those realizations break loyalty, create defections, destroy Trump's electoral coalition from within. The symbolic destruction of the Trump empire is permanent. Even if Trump somehow recovers financially, even if he rebuilds, he can never rebuild what's lost through these seizures, can never reclaim Trump Tower with his name on it, can never get back Mar-a-Lago as his private domain, can never restore his image as a successful billionaire. That symbolic capital is destroyed forever. That brand is ruined permanently. Trump becomes synonymous with fraud and failure, with property seized and empire collapsed. That's his legacy. That's historical judgment. That's how he's remembered, not as president, not as businessman, as a fraud whose properties got seized. What really happening is federal marshals are executing seizure orders. Trump Tower being targeted. Mar-a-Lago has liens. 40 Wall Street, Doral, Seven Springs. All Trump's iconic properties being seized because he committed fraud. Because he can't pay the $454 million judgment. Because courts are enforcing accountability. Trump is panicking, raging on Truth Social, filing desperate appeals, trying everything to stop seizures, but nothing works. Appeals will fail. Process will continue. Auctions will get scheduled. Properties will get sold. Trump's name will get stripped. Empire will collapse. Brand destroyed. Legacy ruined. This is Trump facing the consequences of decades of fraud. This is accountability finally catching up. This is the empire built on lies collapsing under the weight of truth. This story continues. Stay tuned.